Well, hi, Stephanie, and welcome to Rebuilding My Health Radio. I'm excited to have you here today to share your personal story and more about the Rapid Rewire Method.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on your show, Casey. It's wonderful to be
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. I'm looking forward to chatting today. So this kind of started with when you experienced a pretty intense experience in your life. Would you share what was going on and what you experienced?
Yeah, so a little bit of background. I've been in the personal development space for 14 years, trained in hypnosis, NLP, somatic experiencing, TRE, havening, EFT, breathwork, you name it. And so I've been highly trained, worked inside of different treatment centers, even to addiction rehabs, a rehabilitation center with women who have borderline personality disorder, bipolar, and other mood disorders. So I was very well equipped to help people get results and to get them quickly, to break through whatever's holding them back. And personally, for me, towards the end of my career, I was working with really high profile, high achieving people who paid me an insane amount of money to get them results quickly. And so I was known for that, to help them break through whatever's holding them back. And in February 2021, the intense experience that you're mentioning, it was a miscarriage that I experienced. I deeply wanted to be a mom of my own biological child. I have two amazing stepkids, but I've always wanted to be a mom and to experience creation myself. And so when my partner and I got pregnant, we weren't trying, by the way. I wanted it. He wasn't totally ready. So when I got pregnant, I was like, oh, this is our miracle baby. And then when I lost the baby 9.5 weeks later, I went really dark, rightfully so, because, part of me was like, well, don't even get me pregnant. And I would just have me be infertile because I was older when I got pregnant. And so I couldn't understand, obviously, what happened. It went super dark. I lost all faith in humanity, in the divine. I was like, it's not a benevolent universe. It's cruel. Like, why would that happen to me? And even with everything I've been trained in, which is why I shared all of that earlier, I couldn't help myself come out of the intense experience, which I will call it a trauma because it was a trauma. We interchange. We usually say intense experience when we talk about trauma, but it was the biggest adult trauma I've experienced in my life. And I'm familiar with grief. I've had, someone close to me pass away. Earlier this year, I lost my dog of 17.5 years. I understand grief. Yeah, it moves and comes and shows itself and kind of hits you in certain moments when you're least expect it. But this was something that was different because over time, Casey, I just kept getting worse in my symptoms. Over time, as months passed post miscarriage, there were days where I couldn't function and get out of bed. If I saw someone holding a baby or a pregnant woman when I would be out and about, I would start bawling out of nowhere and be super dysregulated. I couldn't look at social media anymore because every time I would open it up in 2021, everyone was announcing their COVID babies. I felt like everybody I knew in 2021 was pregnant and having a child. And so now I can't look at social media. I was having a hard time sometimes, scared to go outside because afraid that I would have a moment in public that I couldn't control myself. And then even had days where I couldn't get out of bed. And, I'm an entrepreneur. I need to get out of bed and create to sustain my life. And so it was really, really difficult. And like I said, even with everything I had been trained in, I couldn't help myself. Even over the 14 years, well, at the time, 12 years of being in the personal development space, and building and cultivating an extraordinary community of coaches, healers, shamans, you name it, no one could support me and move me out of this grief that I was stuck in, these loops that were really disempowering, that were impacting my ability to function. And so that's when, I'll share the next bit of the story, which is that's when I got connected to the Rapid Rewire tools. Or the tools, they were created by a Yugoslavian psychotherapist, but we're calling them the Rapid Rewire Method. We have the blessing from his estate to do that. And literally in one session with our intense experience integration process, the actual trauma of the miscarriage was integrated. So was the emotional of grief and sadness. It was integrated such that it no longer had a hold on me anymore. And I was shocked because it took like, maybe I wasn't watching the clock, but it was a 60-minute session on the books. And I was done in that time. And I was like, what was that? I was known for getting rapid results with really high profile clients. And I'd never experienced that before in my life. And I was like, what is this? Can we keep going? And so I kept working with the protocols, with the different tools. And I was starting to get rapid results around things that I had been stuck around for years. And I also had certain, issues that maybe I had gotten better with, but they would still show themselves at different points in times. The triggers would still arise. So it wasn't fully integrated. And yet with these tools, all of a sudden it was like, boom, once I did a process, it was done. And I never had to revisit it again. Like even with the miscarriage, I've never had to redo any other processing, journaling, breath work, somatic work. Once it was integrated and done, it was done. And it's wild because even when I share about that experience with other people, they have a bigger emotional reaction to my miscarriage than I have speaking about it. And so that's when something's really been integrated. It's been filed in the past where it belongs, and it's no longer affecting you in the current moment, in the present, which then ultimately will impact your future. And so to say that I was truly liberated from that experience, I would say is a true statement. And more, like all the other things I worked on, I never had to revisit or process. And so anyway, I got really excited what these tools were and the capability that they had to really help people through their issues, and sustainably as well, not just quickly, but sustainably. And so I, after working with them for 7 weeks, I heard the divine command: you're meant to bring these tools into the world. I always do what I'm told when it comes from a divine command or a divine whisper. And so, I joined forces with Wesley, my co-founder. We launched the Rapid Rewire Method, and we have been training people in these tools, empowering them, literally with handing them the tools to learn that they can use on themselves or another being. All of our processes can be done as self-work. So the same exact script, all of our tools are in an easy to follow script. You can use that same script to help yourself, or you can help another person, or even entire groups of people at once.
Wow. Super cool. I'm so intrigued by this. Tell me more about how it works that is different from kind of all the other approaches out there. What makes this so different?
Yeah. So look, all modalities work. One, it depends obviously on the person receiving and their buy-in into whatever modality they're receiving. Second is they all have their own way of working with the mind, with the body, with the emotions, some with multiple, some with just solely one or the other. Our processes work with the mental content as well as the emotional content. So we work on all the 4 levels of awareness of mental emotional content, which is images, thoughts, emotions, and body sensations. There are some protocols out there, some modalities, tools that only focus on the mind, right? CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Some only focus on the emotions, some only focus on the body, somatic work, breath work, dance, movement, yoga. And so they will work, but it takes longer because it only maybe addresses 1 or maybe 2 of the elements of awareness, or, just the mind or the emotions or just the body. And they don't merge them all together. So to me, that's one of the reasons why ours works so quickly, is it addresses mental content, emotional content, and somatic content all together. We also, the way that it's structured and framed is it works to bring unconscious content conscious, and then it clears it on all those 4 levels of awareness, as I mentioned. So just by the nature of the way that our protocols are formed, the framework of them, it brings that unconscious content conscious, which is why literally the other day I was actually on another podcast, and this woman asked, she goes, well, if you don't know, what the core root issue is, how do you figure this out? And I go, well, by the nature of the way that it's structured, it arises, right? I used to be a hypnotist, and I used to take people into age regression to try to find like the genesis of the moment of when that limiting belief maybe began, right? For us, we don't need to know all that. All we need to know is what's the problem that you're experiencing and how is it emotionally impacting you right now? We can only deal with the present moment. We can't clear the past, right? We can clear it here in the here and now. And by naturally, what will happen is it will clear the past timeline and the future timeline when you deal with the issue now. And so that's literally all we need. What's the problem? What's the emotion? And then through it, the questioning, all the junk that's tethered together, whether it's through an image, through a thought, through an emotion, through a body sensation, begins to arise. And as we start to bring that content to the surface and we're able to put our attention to it, experience it, articulate it, it starts to lose its hold. And so, again, we don't have to know. A mentor once said this to me, Stephanie, you don't always need to know why the trash stinks to know you want to throw it out. And I think so often we want to keep digging into the past history to find the genesis of this issue in order to resolve it. But the way that our tools are structured, you don't necessarily need to do that. It'll do it.
Yeah.
It'll do all the cleanup inside of the process. So there's a lot of different psychological principles at play, whether it's duplication, some direct experiencing, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say the main piece that really makes our tool so effective is because it addresses the emotional content and the mental content on all 4 levels. That's what makes it so integrative. Because if you're only focusing on the mind, right, you're like, oh, this emotional piece is missing. Again, that it'll work. It just takes longer. And what we're about is rapid transformation, sustainable integration. That's what the game that we're up to when we play in helping others, is making sure that it doesn't arise again and that we can support people quickly. Because, I mean, you haven't noticed the world is a bit on fire right now, right? And people really need support and quickly. I mean, suicide rates are higher than ever. Prescription medications for antidepressant, anti-anxiety are being doled out more than ever. And those are just like with the medication, that's just a Band-Aid. And we really need to take a deeper cut and look at what is actually causing people to experience these label of emotions that they're stuck in, and how can we free them? And so I believe that when we're working integratively with someone on all 4 levels, we can help them quickly. And that's really what humanity needs right now.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm curious, is there kind of like one approach with this? Or I think I've heard you mention in the past that there's like different techniques, like, is the approach different depending on what the emotion is or the challenge is? Like if it's a limiting belief versus a specific, intense experience or trauma, is the approach different?
Yeah, so we have about 15 tools that we teach our students, and they all get to the same-ish place. Some of our tools actually can bring people straight up into the non-dual consciousness, what people drink ayahuasca and other plant medicines to get to, right? We can actually bring people there without needing to drink ayahuasca or lick a frog. We can get them into that non-dual consciousness and then be able to look back on their problem and see that it really wasn't a problem, which then resolves it. Some of our protocols can, support with just integrating those problems, any barriers to goals, limiting beliefs. We even have tools that integrate deserving identities. So when we get stuck in certain coping identities, right, because something happened to us, we want to stay safe and protect ourselves. So we take on a coping identity to not get hurt. But many times those coping identities get in the way of what we actually want. As an example, you want to, speak on stage and be seen. And yet something happened in your past where now you're like, ooh, it's not safe to be seen. Let me just stay invisible, close myself off. And then the moment you try to go speak, your whole body shuts down. Your throat tightens up, your heart starts to beat, you start to sweat, you forget what you're trying to say, because that's your body going, no, don't do that thing, because something bad's going to happen. So we have these coping identities, right, that then will kick in, and yet it blocks you from, well, I want to be seen. I need to put myself out there. I want to speak on stage. I want to have a voice. So we have tools that will integrate those coping, what we call stuck identities, so that people can be free around whatever they need to or choose to do. Same thing around health, right? I'm going to share something. I know you wanted some examples, but I had a client who I worked with. She was really high profile, and she works in a really, really, really high level capacity, and she was physically unwell. And so we were working on supporting her in kind of understanding what's the emotional and mental content that might be keeping this unwellness in her body. And what we discovered, because we're bringing unconscious content conscious, is that people are more impressed by what she's able to achieve given her physical circumstance. She gets to avoid being responsible on certain things in her life that she doesn't actually enjoy doing. Yeah. And then there was a third one, but anyway, yeah, I heard you go, woo, because you get it, right? There was a secondary gain for her to be physically unwell. And it came up in our process. And then this became a choice point. Well, are you ready to actually like let that go? Or is it better for you to hold on to these secondary gains and not be physically well in your body? Well, if that's the case, then you're choosing to be sick, right? Or to struggle with these physical challenges that are really impacting her ability to, be with her family, to work more efficiently, but she's getting more attention because she's able to still be such a high achiever with her physical and wellness. And it's like, whoa, getting significance that way. It's like, what do you do? And so like I said, we can bring that unconscious content conscious and work at the root level, but it also is the buy-in of the person. And, it's really a matter of, are people ready to get that support? So we have multiple tools. I mean, that uncovered that piece. And that was through the identity work with her. Because we were trying to say, like, is there an identity that stuck to her being sick? And then sure enough, something came up. And then we also have tools for, as we mentioned, intense experiences. So what people would normally call trauma, we call intense experiences. We had, one of our students, she witnessed a death at a beach, and it was a pro surfer. He hit his head on coral. She and her boyfriend were the first on site to help this guy. First responders came, a crowd formed. And then he ended up passing away. And after that experience, she reported to us during a process that she kept seeing flashbacks of his deceased face. She was having trouble sleeping. She was having random panic attacks, and she couldn't go back to a beach. She lives in Cocoa Beach, Florida. You need to get to, it's avoiding where you live, right? And so we decided to support her because she was in our level 2 training is when we teach that trauma protocol. And it was like 2 months away from when she experienced it. So we're like, we'll support you, we'll run it, but can we record it to use for content for our students? She agreed. We recorded it. It started at the 6-minute mark, finished at the 24-minute mark, and literally 18 minutes, Casey, she was fine. And when we had her rethink about it, put her attention to that experience where she was bawling at the start, she was like reporting as if it was, again, it's just this thing that happened. And we like to check our work. So we asked her, can you go back to the beach where it happened and Zoom with us so we can see and make sure that you're good? She went the next day. I missed her on Zoom. So I'm like, can you please go back? She's like, I could do it in 3 days. So she goes back 3 days later. She's on Zoom with me. And she's like, I'm at the site of the accident and I see more details than I saw before. Like the sky looks bluer. I see more trees. And then when she's walking and talking to me, there was a little plaque on a staircase that said Kevin Moon. That was the name of the surfer. She goes, I feel nothing but peace and gratitude looking at that. And we just kept chatting. And she goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm going to take up surfing. And I was like, wait, what? That's when you know something's been integrated, where you're now no longer scared to do the thing that brought you terror before, right? She's like, yeah, I'm going to take. And if you look at her social media on her Instagram stories, there she is surfing in the ocean, doing her thing. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting what our different tools can do. We can also integrate polarities as well, but that's a lot of the different things that we could do with our full suite of protocols, is really just liberate people from whatever they feel stuck around and get to the root cause and support them out of that quickly and sustainably.
Yeah. Wow. Really powerful. And when you say integrate polarities, do you mean, tell me more about what that means.
Yeah. So we live in a bipolar world, right? Everything is the one and the same, but on a spectrum. So hot and cold is temperature. Dark and light is what would you say that's on the spectrum of? We just know the spectrum. My mind is going blank, right? Love and hate. It's one of the same thing. But again, on different ends of a spectrum. And what happens for some people is they might get stuck in one of the polarities. So whether that's fear versus courage, that could be on the same spectrum. But if someone's more stuck on the fear side versus accessing courage or power or love, well, it's going to be very imbalanced, and it's going to impact the way that someone functions, the choices that they make, the behaviors that they take in the world. And so what our work does is it allows these two to come together to merge, right? So courage and fear now can coexist simultaneously where they once couldn't before for someone. And now that person is free to choose. Right? I think it's smart to be able to choose fear at times. It will keep you safe. If a bear's running after you, or you're walking on a trail and you're on the ledge and you get that signal of fear, it's going to keep you safe. But when you're walking the edge of a stage to give a talk and that fear is arising, or you want to do something just in your life, but now you're being impacted or you're stuck in that fear, that side of the polarity, it's going to have an impact on you. We want you to be able to choose. And so again, when we integrate it, it makes it so that it kind of neutralizes the polarities for someone where they're both available now, and you have the freedom to choose which one you want to be in order to serve and support the goal that you're trying to attain.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah. How about an example of maybe somebody overcoming a limiting belief, or something like that we don't associate with trauma, but something that's holding someone back?
Oh yeah, I mean, general stories of things that we've helped people with. There have been a lot of folks that have come through our doors who have limiting beliefs around money, and literally after integration processes with them, right, going through our tools, it's like, oh my God, this check came in. Oh my gosh, I got this new job. Oh my gosh. Out of, I was able to ask for a raise. Actually, one of our clients, he had been working inside of his job for a long time, was promised to get money at certain milestones, but the milestones he couldn't control. And so now, if the rest of the organization wasn't hitting it, that impacted his raise, his money. And normally he would try to prove himself to ensure that he did his job in order to be worthy of whatever raise he was asking. And after the process, he went in and he asked for it. He demanded it. He had all the evidence to show why he deserved this raise. He showed all of his deliverables and the certain milestones he had hit for the company based on his department, and held his ground. And he was like, I've never done that before. And he got it. And other limiting beliefs, again, people around their businesses stuck around whether I'm worthy of having what I want. Same thing inside of a relationship. I know these are general ones, but it's hard to kind of pinpoint specific when I can't remember the exact limiting beliefs, but these are the issues that they have. And there's always a limiting belief in place that keeps it a problem for someone. Even inside relationship, it's so funny. I was at a conference, a podcasting conference with a girlfriend. We were in the hotel room together, and she believes that no one has her back. She was single and she was kind of struggling a little bit financially. And she's like, I wish that someone would just have my back. I wanted to be in partnership. Well, I ran her through a process too, because I was like, hey, I'm happy to do this on you. And we did one of our more simple tools. And she shifted that belief. I'm like, when you think about people don't support you, how does that feel? She's like, not so true. Well, I checked in with her about, gosh, I have to text her back, but I checked in with her about 2.5 months later, and she's like, girl, everything's changed. I've got a boyfriend now. I've got new clients. And I was like, I didn't really want to take credit for it, but part of me kind of didn't want to take credit for it. So it's like, you had been single, ready to mingle for how long? And you were struggling with your business. And now 2 months later, when I just decided to check in, she's like, oh yeah, I have a boyfriend. I have these new clients. It could be a coincidence. Maybe it is. But obviously, when we shift our beliefs internally, and not just mentally, but emotionally, right? We can feel different about what we believe. What starts to show up is radically different. We get out of those disempowering patterns of like creating or attracting, right? And we start to create new ways of starting to attract what we actually desire and to have what we want to show up and be able to actually create it and keep it. And so, yeah, those are some quick and dirty stories. So overcoming limitations.
I love that. So interesting. Well, so Stephanie, and people can experience this online. It's typically delivered online these days, right? I mean, they don't have to be like in a room with a practitioner for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, most of our certified coaches, they work, not in person with people. You could absolutely do it via Zoom. You could do it even straight over the phone. You don't need to look at someone in order for it to work. If anyone wants to have their own direct experience as well, we do have a freebie on our website, on our homepage, rapidrewiremethod.com. They can download it and listen to it. Now, remember, that's a recording. So don't pick your biggest life issue from a recording. It will work. But if it's something that's bigger that someone's struggling with, my recommendation would be to actually work with a practitioner so they can, if there's nuanced things that that person needs, they can actually guide you through that and support you to the end. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then can folks find a practitioner on your site, like certified or trained practitioners?
We don't have them listed on our site yet, but if you shoot an email to support@rapidrewiremethod.com, we'd be happy to pair you up with someone, or at least give a few different practitioners. Then someone can talk to, the 2 or the 3 we recommend and make their decision based on rapport that they feel with the person.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's important. Great. Well, Stephanie, any kind of last advice you would give to others who facing, things that are holding them back, or intense experiences or limiting beliefs, or that you would share?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always a way out and through and out. I think there's many times where we feel like our life is the way it is and it's always going to be that way, or that it has to be hard in order to change internally so that we can start to experience a different external world. It's not. We're really of the mindset of how, like, it's possible to integrate whatever's holding you back quickly and sustainably. And you don't have to wait months, years in order for it to change. You don't have to just form coping mechanisms to manage when the triggers arise, or you don't have to do a repetitive action over and over and over again in order to integrate something. It can happen quickly and sustainably. And what you want is absolutely possible. Like, where we are can be rewired. And once it is, life shows up, or things show up radically different in our worlds.
Yeah. It's refreshing to hear that, because I think there is this kind of attitude that you have to do the work, especially if there has been intense experiences, or, you're kind of carrying emotional baggage from childhood or for a long time or whenever, that you've got to kind of do the work and like work through all this stuff. And so it's refreshing to realize, maybe there is a different path that isn't so arduous.
Yeah, I know. And you'd be surprised, Casey, the kickback we've gotten from certain people when we make these claims or say that. They're like, you can't rush, healing. You can't overcome trauma that quickly. And we're like, gosh, we have so much evidence to show the contrary. Like, actually, maybe you can. But it takes a whole mindset shift for people to believe that for themselves, because the old way, as you mentioned, was arduous, long, constant. And that's hard, and there's so much more we need to do in our lives to be back into our genius, functioning at our highest, giving our gifts to the world. And if there's a way to do it faster, and again, more integratively, sustainably, where we don't have to keep working on it, why wouldn't we say yes to that? It blew my mind when I learned these tools. I thought I had the fastest mode. I joke, but I'm very serious when I tell people, I'm like, I'm Asian. We like results. We like them quickly. And so I was always looking for the fastest ways to support people. And with the high achieving people I work with, they wanted results quickly. They didn't want it to take forever. So that's why I was known for being able to help them with that. And yet when I learned these tools, I was like, oh, wow, it can even be faster and even more integrative than what I thought I was capable of creating. And so it's been definitely mind-bending for some people. And, another student of ours says that these are a disruptor, because it's really kind of changing the current conversation of what it means or how long it takes to heal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been super interesting, Stephanie. Thank you so much for sharing your personal story, as well as all about the Rapid Rewire Method. I know this will, people also find it intriguing, and we will have links to your site in the show notes so that they can learn more and possibly have the experience themselves of going through the method. So thank you again for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Casey.
Take care.